Today on the Daily Scoop podcast from the Scoop News Group, the Department of Veterans Affairs acting CIO defends its IT workforce reorganization amid lawmaker pushback. And Mike Waltz brushes off SignalGate questions in a congressional hearing, pointing fingers at CISA. It's Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. Welcome to the Daily Scoop podcast, where you'll hear the latest news and trends facing government leaders. I'm the host of the Daily Scoop podcast, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for joining me. Let's dive into today's top headlines. The Department of Veterans Affairs' acting chief information officer doubled down on the agency's reshaping of its IT workforce, telling lawmakers in a Monday hearing that change is challenging but necessary. That man, Eddie Poole, told members of the House VA Subcommittee on Technology Modernization that the agency's Office of Information and Technology is pushing forward with workforce reductions as the division increasingly turns to automation and other tech modernization efforts. Poole said in opening remarks at the hearing, quote, "This reorganization, reallocation of positions is designed to cut bureaucratic overhead, accelerate decision-making, and focus every OIT position on delivering secure, reliable, and modern IT solutions to improve veterans' lives." Republican Subcommittee Chair Tom Barrett of Michigan lauded the VA OIT's, quote, "smarter, not bigger" strategy in its fiscal 2026 budget request, and he asked Poole if technology improvements can alleviate the need for manual human processes, to which Poole responded, "Absolutely. It's about automating what we can automate." In its fiscal 2026 budget, the VA OIT requested funding to support approximately 7,000 full-time equivalent employees, marking an 11.7% decrease from its fiscal 2025 budget requests, according to Carol Harris, the Director of Information Technology and Cybersecurity for the Government Accountability Office. Harris also added that the budget request's decrease of 931 full-time equivalent employees is, quote, "consistent with maturing technology delivery models and a shift towards automation and digital services." Poole noted that the VA OIT currently staffs about 8,205 employees, and its restructuring initiative is geared more toward maximizing how resources are allocated rather than simply reducing the number of staffers. However, Representative Nikki Budzinski, a Democrat of Illinois and ranking member of the subcommittee, took issue with the VA's prepared testimony, arguing, quote, "It's almost as if the VA is bragging about the loss of trusted, hardworking, and knowledgeable federal employees." Since January, the VA OIT has lost about 1,200 employees who either took the deferred resignation option or were granted voluntary early retirement, Poole said. As part of this process, VA moved $89 million from its OIT budget into other department initiatives. Devin Beard, the acting deputy CIO for People Science and VA OIT's chief people officer, testified that no veteran services were impacted by this process, pointing to reassignments, cost training, and succession planning as factors. In other news, former White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz brushed aside criticisms Tuesday that he put sensitive military operations at risk by holding discussions about military strikes in a Signal group chat, claiming the app's use was authorized by the federal government's top civilian cyber agency. In a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing, Waltz, who has been nominated to represent the U.S. at the United Nations, was pressed about his short tenure as President Donald Trump's top national security official. In particular, he was grilled by Senator Chris Coons, Democrat of Delaware, for his use of the end-to-end encrypted messaging application Signal to coordinate with other officials over airstrikes on Houthi rebels. While much of the initial attention was focused on Waltz adding journalist Jeffrey Goldberg to the chat, national security experts were also aghast by government officials at the highest levels coordinating highly sensitive military operations using a free application. The incident is widely viewed as contributing to Waltz's departure just months after leaving Congress to take the role, and his subsequent shuffling to a new nomination at the UN. During the hearing, Waltz said, quote, "The use of Signal is not only authorized, it was recommended in the Biden-era CISA guidance." Waltz was referencing a piece of 2024 guidance put out by CISA on mobile security. He later read from a portion of the guidance which recommended using only end-to-end encrypted communication and to adopt a free messaging application to secure communications that guarantees end-to-end encryption, particularly if you are a highly targeted individual using apps such as Signal or others. CISA is the federal government's top civilian cyber agency, but has no legal authority over U.S. military or Department of Defense operations. It's not clear why Waltz believed that voluntary guidance from the agency, which was directed to the broader public following news that the Chinese hacking group Salt Typhoon had penetrated U.S. telecommunications infrastructure, would cover sensitive military operations overseen by the White House and DoD. For more news at the intersection of the federal government and technology, make sure to visit fedscoop.com. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Daily Scoop podcast, available on all podcast platforms. If you've already rated the podcast on your platform of choice, thanks so much. High ratings and good reviews of the show help more people to find it. The Daily Scoop podcast is a production of the Scoop News Group in Washington, D.C. Adam Butler and Carlin Fisher help put the show together, and the entire Scoop News Group team contributes. We'll be back tomorrow with more top headlines. Until then, I'm your host, as always, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for listening.